Welcome to Chapter 5, Section 25 about the formation of Prussia. Our first question is, how did Prussia use its small size to its advantage in the 17th century? So, small states could play a major military role in the 17th century because most armies were small and weapons were simple. Most battles were fought with fewer than 40,000 men, regardless of the size of the army as a whole, and well-trained and disciplined armies of smaller states could defeat armies of larger states. Such was the basis of the modern Prussian state. Sweden had a short-lived empire due to the brilliant leadership of three rulers who did well in the 30 Years' War and went on to conquer parts of the Baltic. The Russians ultimately defeated the last of these three, Charles VII, in 1718. Swedish holdings were reduced to Finland, and the Swedes gave up their imperial dreams. Prussia was to become the dominant state in Northern Europe and to play a decisive role in world history. The original Prussia was a large, flat plain, now in Poland, without natural frontiers. The ruler of nearby Brandenburg, an inland area originally on the eastern border of the Holy Roman Empire, was one of 7 who elected the emperor. After 1415, it was always a Hohenzollern. Originally within the Polish kingdom, the Duchy of Prussia was inherited by 1618 by the Duchy of Brandenburg, which at the Peace of Westphalia was given to Western Pomerania on the Baltic coast, plus some territories west of the Elbe River. Prussia therefore lacked territorial unity of its 3 major areas. It became the driving task of the Prussian rulers to create a physically unified state. Frederick William, later known as the Great Elector, came to the throne just as Brandenburg was suffering terrible destruction during the 30 Years' War. Berlin's population had fallen to 6,000. He was committed to building a great army to force greater states to make diplomatic concessions to Prussia, creating the Prussian pattern of having but rarely using its great army. His son Frederick I used this principle, and the offer of just 8,000 soldiers to the emperor to win the right to use the title king from the Holy Roman Emperor in 1701 during the War of Spanish Succession allowed him to become a German king, while the other rulers within the empire were princes. Next question, how did militarism infuse the Prussian state? So, Prussia's uniqueness was not in its interest in military improvement, but in the proportion between its investment in the military and its meager resources. Here, the army developed a life independent of and more durable than that of the state, only becoming subservient to civilian authority after World War II. The army was the first all-Prussian institution. The need to fund the army became a driving force of the economy. There we go. The personal income of the rulers was channeled for state purposes rather than to private pleasures. The monarchs themselves adopted a Spartan lifestyle, eschewing luxury. They developed a highly sophisticated bureaucracy both for tax collecting and for management of large-scale state-owned productive enterprises. An increase in the labor force largely came from Holland or were exiled French Huguenots. All taxes, including excise and salt taxes, were used for the army. The percentage of government-owned enterprises was higher in Prussia than anywhere else, and military needs dominated the market. All right, so all right, now we're all caught up. Sorry about that, people. So, the Junkers were the landed aristocrats who were absorbed into military service, which compensated somewhat for the loss of their traditional parliamentary bodies. In addition, the Junkers were granted unbridled authority over the serfs, and legislation forbid the sale of noble lands to non-nobles was promulgated. This discouraged the growth of the sale of noble lands to This discouraged the growth of the bourgeois, quite the opposite of the situation in France. To create an all-Prussian identity and encourage the submissiveness of the population, and especially the small and not very wealthy middle class. So marital values of obedience, honor, and service infused the entire society. King Frederick William I, who reigned from 1713 to 1740, was totally devoted to the army, abhorring the arts so beloved by his son, Frederick the Great, and living a highly frugal life, a Spartan life. He always appeared in uniform and had a particular and well-known love for tall soldiers, and was innovative in his creation of recruitment and training programs. The army doubled in size, and the city of Berlin reached a population of 100,000 during his reign. Frederick the Great inherited the throne in 1740, the same year Charles VI of Austria died, and immediately went to war against Austria in order to wrest Silesia from the Habsburgs. The acquisition of Silesia doubled the population of Brandenburg and brought valuable resources and industries so that he could increase the army to 20,000 men. So I have a couple of slides of IDs for you. This is the first of 3, I believe. So go ahead, pause this and record them. Now here's IDs 2 of 3. Brandenburg, Elector of Brandenburg, and the Hohenzollerns. And next we have our last 4 IDs of the Junkers, Silesia, Frederick William I, and Frederick II, also known as Frederick the Great.